Hello everyone, I am Dr. Sirajul Faisi. I welcome you in my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I am going to focus on how to write a thesis. This is a journal paper published by Cunningham. So we will learn here how to write a thesis with the help of this journal. The prospect of writing a thesis can be intimidating in this paper. However, there are certain formats that the writer should follow in order to make life much easier. This article covers a logical approach to presenting research findings. Also included are suggestions for a last-minute checklist. So this is the keywords for this. Now, so you think the hard part is over now that your actual research is completed after your research, but then you realize it is only just beginning. The thesis has to be written up. However, there are many practical tips that can make writing up as stress-free as possible. The thinking part of writing is the hardest part of any thesis. Most graduate schools have their own guide to writing a thesis or dissertation, and it is important that this is obtained prior to commencing the research. Such guides offer information on a wide spectrum of research-related issues, but more importantly, will also give other vital information such as word limits, etc. The recommendation format for thesis is similar for most institutions with some local minor variations. Look at here. This is very important part. Title page, abstract, acknowledgement, table of content, review of literature, concluding with a summary, a statement of problem, aim of the study, hypothesis, materials and method include statistical analysis, results, discussions, conclusions, appendices and references. So let us see one by one. Title page. The title page should include the following information. Title of the thesis, usually concerned on the page and in uppercase later. So for more informations, you can see here. Your full name and qualifications. The name of institution to which the thesis is being submitted, the degree for which the thesis is submitted, and the years of submissions. The second important part of the thesis, abstract. The abstract is placed immediately following the title page and is generally short, up to a side of A4 usually. The abstract should include a brief introduction and a statement of the problem, as well as summary of the methodology, findings, and conclusion. A structured abstract may be used if before. Now, acknowledgement. It is important to acknowledge your supervisor, statistical advisors, and others who have helped. Example, colleague who have offered supports or provided data. In addition, any funding bodies should be mentioned. It is also customary to refer to those who have had to put up with you during the process of writing the thesis, usually family and friends. Table of contents. Conventionally, there should be a table of contents, followed by a list of tables and list of figures. The table of contents includes all the major divisions of the thesis, including subsections, the relationship between major divisions, and minor subdivisions should be shown by an appropriate use of capitals and indentations. The preliminary page, abstract, acknowledgements, and content are numbered using Roman numerals 1, 2, 3 like this, and the remainder of the thesis is numbered using Arabic numbers 1, 2 like this. The title page is not numbered. It is sensible to start writing a table of content as you write the thesis. However, the page number can only be added when you have completed the final draft. At this stage, always cross-check the page number between the table of contents and the main body of the text and ask someone to double-check them for you. The list of tables or figures follow the same format, with each table figure number in Arabic numerals, the exact title as it appears in the main text, and also the page number. Now, review of the literature. Beginning these sections can be a daunting task, particularly if your research area is extensive. This should be one of the first things you do, and if the majority of this work is undertaken relatively early in the project, it makes later stage very much easier. The review of the literature should be as comprehensive as possible in the space available. Include only material that gives an appropriate background to your study, and avoid the temptations to include everything you have ever read or the subject. Obviously, this review must be constantly updated to ensure you do not miss the important addition to the literature, and final search should always be undertaken immediately prior to submission, and also very important just before the viva in case an important work has been published in the time between the submission and examination. So make sure your knowledge acknowledge which paper something is cited in if you did not actually read it yourself. An examiner may find it hard to believe that you managed to get a copy of Russian Orthodox journals, like for examples, managed to translate it yourself. Great care is required in the way the references are quoted in the text, especially with respect to punctuations. It is, if several papers are quoted at the same point, they should always be in chronological order. So, a statement of the problem. Aim and hypothesis. The literature review is followed by a statement of the problem, then aim of the study and the hypothesis. Traditionally, null hypotheses were used because they have their basis in inferential statistics. However, it is now much more acceptable to pose a hypothesis in its positive form. When writing up the results and discussions, it is important to make sure that this hypothesis is actually answered. So, you can see the another important sections, materials and methods. This is also very important. Full details should be included in the materials and methods so that the reader could repeat the study if they wished. For this reason, details should also be provided of any equipment and material used. This can be placed in a separate appendix if necessary. It is also useful to start writing these sections as you undertake your research. Not only will everything be very fresh in your mind at this stage, but it will also mean you have less to do at a later stage. And these sections allow reader to understand the objective of the study and to judge whether the methods used were appropriate. The method may actually be modified during the process of the study, in which case the final form of method is discussed. Very important point. Unless advised otherwise by your supervisor. So you have to attach with the supervisor. You make your relationship with supervisor nice. The most serious error in this section is to omit important information required by the reader to see the logic of the study and to judge the adequacy of the methods. Everything to do with the validity of the method should be included in this section. Include design, instrumentations, analysis, and this section should also contain evidence of the reliability of the method. There is a great deal of individual variation in the subheading used in these sections, often depending on the type of research undertaken. However, possible examples include like subject, design, materials, apparatus, procedures, statistical analysis, validity, and reliability of the methods. Now, subject. There are two particularly important aspects to be considered here, both of which determine the generality of the finding. The number of subjects at each stage and freedom from bias in the way the subjects are obtained, recruited in clinical study. This is not for chemistry. So, design. This section describes exactly what type of study was taken. For example, a perspective, or if you have synthesized compounds, you have to write here what you design. Materials, method, procedure. This section includes all procedural elements that will allow the reader to understand that happen. It may be worth using diagram. Validity and reliability. This is not for the chemistry. Statistical analysis. This is also very important. It is failing of many research study that statistical advice was obtained too late to be any real use, and the writing up stage is certainly not the time to consult your statistician for the first time. So this is results. This section is very important. You have to write carefully. Discussions. Researchers often find the discussion the most difficult part to write. It is really is the thinking part of the thesis. The examiner want to know several things when they read these sections. Why did you find? Do you understand why you find this, and can you suggest reason why? Why is it important to you? Is it likely to offer current clinical practice? Or if you have chemistry, then chemistry. How do you finding compare with the previous study, particularly with those which have been mentioned in the review of the literature? Did you encounter any problem with the methodology? Like this type of questions you have to prepare in your mind during writing. And conclusions part, finally, silent in a conclusion from your work should be summarized, and these frequently have more impact if they are presented in bullet format. Try to avoid repetition in making this section too long. It is supposed to represent most important finding, not every single finding. Appendices is also very important. And references. This part is very, very important. When commencing the research for the thesis, ensure you enter all reference on a computer-based reference manager. And this minimizes the error, although does not completely avoid them if you do not have access to computer-based system for any reasons. Keep index card of all the references you have read so that you can go back and double check them. This avoids a great deal of work at a large later stage. Always get someone else to double check your references and cross check that all those in the text are in the references and vice versa. Be consistent with the style of the references. For example, either abbreviate all journals title with correct abbreviations or write them all in full. Now, publications include details of any paper itself, if already published, that may have been accepted from the study, and this reflects well on your research and shows that it has already been peer reviewed and judges to be of a standard which is acceptable to a national and international journal, and this is particularly important for MPhil and PhD thesis. Consistency of style, this is very important. Additional point, if you want to write it down. Now, you can see word limits. So ensure you know the word limits before starting. University regulations can vary markedly in finding out that you have written 5,000 words more than the limits. So you have to consult your parent institution. MPhil and PhD larger theses are now frequently chapter based, in which case each chapter may have a review of the literatures, materials, methods, research, and discussion. If this is the case, start the thesis with an overall introduction and end with the overall conclusion that bring the whole thesis together. Dealing with your supervisor, that is also very important. Try to make a supervisor or postgraduate relations as easy as possible during your research and throughout the writing up phase. Remember that although your thesis is most important things to you, your supervisor may be well involved with several other as well. Always keep to deadlines that are set for you and equally attempt to set your supervisor a deadline on returning draft. It is also sensible to keep a copy of the supervisor correction so that when they are done, the supervisor is not tempted to ask for more. Most supervisors will also appreciate being given the thesis in section and they are written, as this break up the workload, and they will obviously want to see the entire thesis at a larger stage, but most of the corrections should have been done by this stage. So final check follow should prove useful. A final checklist, readability, page number, this is very important. Margins, take care about margin, heading and subheading, tables, figures and appendices, a reference list, binding of the thesis. Binding is also very important part. Have you checked the university requirement regarding number of copies, types of binding for the submitted versions? Do you need a hardbound or softbound copy at initial submission? Color of the cover and lettering on the cover. So summary. So you have got the final stage and thesis is ready to go to for binding. Getting to on that point is something to be proud. Nobody will ever underestimate the amount of effort that has been expended in the process. However, following the steps in this paper should make the effort as pain-free as possible. So this is very important advice and reference styles. You have to follow the American Chemical Society style or ACS style. So my friends, I hope this video will be helpful to you. If you like this video, then subscribe my channel and thanks for watching.